Hey everybody, this is Aaron, and today I'm going to review Monoprice's 12-inch $99 subwoofer. Now, as you can see, this subwoofer comes with a grill. I'm going to pop this off. This grill is just MDF with black grill cloth and the Monoprice label. This $99 subwoofer comes with a ported enclosure, port located at the bottom, and I'll show a picture of it here. This subwoofer's rated performance is down to about 50 Hz, which puts it on par with most of the other budget subwoofers I've tested. However, I should notice that when we're talking about subwoofers, this is more like a mid-bass module than a subwoofer. Same goes for all the other budget subwoofers that I've tested recently as well. But it's something that's worth noting, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression that if you buy this, you're going to get down to 30 Hz response. That's just not going to happen. Even in a room, you might get a little bit of that, but you're certainly not going to get serious output like you would with maybe a $500–600 or more subwoofer. As you can see, the subwoofer comes with a black finish. It is a wooden cabinet. It does have a curved cabinet design to it, 12-inch woofer on the front, a port on the bottom of the enclosure, the amplifier on the back. Well, let's talk about the amplifier inputs and outputs and the various settings. First off, the on-off switch is located at the bottom. It does feature an auto-on switch, so if you wanted to leave this permanently powered on and then have it sense voltage coming into it when you power up your receiver or something like that, then it will switch on automatically. It has high-level input and output, so you can take your speaker outputs from your AVR, run it into this. When you're using the line inputs, you'll need to make sure that you use RCA inputs to both channels. If you don't have an RCA output from two channels left and right from your AVR or whatever you're using, make sure that you go and get a simple Y splitter. So single into that end, splits Y into this, and then plug into both the left and right input channels. Otherwise, you won't get the full power that you need from this subwoofer. Next, you have the level, which is just the gain control. And then over here, you have your crossover, which can be set from 50 Hertz to 150 Hertz. The overall dimensions for this speaker is roughly about 17 inches cubed, so about 17 by 17 by 17 inches. So that's the intro. Now let's talk about the measurements. All of my subwoofer testing is done based on two different standards, both of which apply distortion thresholds to them to determine a maximum SPL. One standard is the CEA 2010A standard, and that is shown here on this page. The Monoprice 12-inch budget subwoofer is listed here, and these are the values that I was able to attain before hitting a certain distortion threshold depending on a certain frequency. And in general, what we're seeing here is at about 50 Hertz and above, the maximum SPL output is roughly in the ballpark of 115, 110 dB in that region. But below about 50 Hertz, the response starts to fall off. The other measurement method I use is the CEA 2010B. Now this B method applies more stringent weighting for the distortion thresholds on the higher frequencies, but lower distortion thresholds on the lower frequencies. And in this case, we can see that at 20 Hertz, the distortion is measured at about 82 dB, and then 92 dB for 25 Hertz, so on and so on. And the bottom line here, outside of these numbers, is how does it compare to other budget subwoofers? Now, I had created a testing of 10-inch budget subwoofers from Amazon about 2 months ago, and I posted the results here. And if we just jump over into the graphical format, what we can see here is this teal colored line that I'm highlighting right now represents the maximum SPL for the Monoprice subwoofer, and then these other lines represent the maximum SPL for the other 10-inch subwoofers that I tested. What you see here is the Monoprice subwoofer is above all of the others by a few dB in some cases and by quite more than a few dB in other cases. Now that's with the 2010A standard. Now if we flip over to the 2010B standard, we still see the same result where the Monoprice checks out at higher output level. And the thing you're going to notice is that below about 50 Hertz, all of these subwoofers start to fall off. Comparing this Monoprice 12-inch subwoofer to the previous round of testing for the 10-inch budget subwoofers, the Monoprice here is certainly the clear winner. It bests all of the other subwoofers, and those subwoofers all cost at least $40 more. Now, if you want something that plays lower than 50 Hertz with any kind of authority, you're going to have to spend a little bit more money, especially if you want 30 Hertz and below. Then you're going to spend probably close to $400, $500 at least to get a good bit of output to go with movie theater content or very, very low music content. So now let's talk about linearity. We just discussed max SPL based on distortion, But how is the frequency response of this subwoofer on its own compared to other subwoofers in that same kind of budget ballpark? What I've done here is I have provided in red this Monoprice subwoofer, and then I've also provided the two leading subwoofers from my last round of testing, which was the ELAC Sub 1010 and the Polk Audio PSW10. Those are shown here in the blue and the green. And then the Klipsch on the last round of testing had a little bit more output below, I think, mid 30s than some of the other subwoofers. So I've also added that. But what I'm concerned with here is linearity. So which one of these subwoofers shows a more linear response? And in that case, again, to me, it looks like the Monoprice subwoofer is the winner. The ELAC, before this testing, was probably my go-to because it was the most linear of all the other 10-inch subwoofers that I tested. But now I'm seeing that the Monoprice actually looks more linear. So not only does the Monoprice offer more output with less distortion, it also offers a more linear response, which is a good thing when you're trying to match this up to bookshelf speakers or floor standing speakers or something along those lines. Now, outside of this testing, I did a few other things. One was to check for when the port chuff becomes a problem, and also see if there was any internal resonances in the cabinet. And I'm going to walk you through some of that testing real fast right now. What I want to walk you guys through first is the port chuff test. Now, I've already done this on my own. I actually did this outdoors. I found where the port starts to take control of the output. And I also need to note that the microphone in this listening room right now is not near the subwoofer. It's placed up high. So it's further away from the speaker than I am. So what I hear is not going to be the exact thing that you hear. But hopefully it kind of gives you an idea. And with me talking you through it, you'll be able to understand what I'm hearing as well. Right now, we're going to start off at 50 hertz, and I'm going to work my way down in frequency. And what I'm listening for is when the sound stops being generated from the subwoofer and starts being generated more from the port that's underneath the enclosure. But right around 40, I can hear it change. And then when I get to 35, what I'm hearing is more of the port chuff. So what does that mean for you? Well, that means that, let's say you're listening to music that has broadband content. You're probably not going to hear that chuff. But if you're listening to a track that has a bass drop in it that goes to, from 50 hertz down to 30 hertz, well, you're going to hear less bass. You're going to hear more air. You're going to hear the chuff from the subwoofer port. So that's not a good thing. But again, this is a $99 subwoofer. You're kind of expecting that kind of issue. Another thing I noticed in my testing outdoors was that there was a resonance around the 100 hertz region. And what I want to do is to give you guys the example of exactly what I was hearing outdoors. And again, this kind of goes with the same caveat of you may not be able to hear it the exact same way that I heard it since I'm in a room, but it will give you at least an idea. I'm going to start off at 80 hertz, and I'm going to sweep up to about 100 hertz, and what you're going to listen for is a very audible resonance. And I'll tip you off to it when we get to that point, just in case your speakers don't show it well. So you can hear the frequency is getting a little bit more annoying in sound. You hear that? That's certainly resonance. And there it is. I mean, that's like the peak of the resonance. Now, when I keep going past 100, it fades away. So it's right between that 100 hertz region, and it is certainly audible. Now, what is it? I don't know. I thought maybe it could be something rattling against the inside of the enclosure on the amplifier, but I don't know. And frankly, I'm not going to spend my time trying to diagnose the issue. It's something simply that's worth noting. Now, taking into account the maximum SPL, the port chuffing, and that rattle, what I'm going to recommend this subwoofer for is maybe the 40 hertz, but the 50 hertz to 80 hertz region certainly will do fine. Maybe even 90 hertz as well, but you're going to want to make sure that you're using a steep crossover slope, because that rattle is going to be annoying when you're listening to movies or listening to music or watching movies. But for $99, I still think that this is probably the best budget subwoofer out there, and I would definitely recommend you at least consider it. I like the ELAC Sub 1010 a little bit more just in terms of form and function, but this subwoofer bests that by a few dB at least in terms of a maximum SPL. So if you're looking for maximum SPL, this is the best value that I know of at this point today. And that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe. Please give me a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.